Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about the least common zodiac sign, or at least valiantly try to figure out which sign is the least common zodiac sign, or at least give you some conception of which one it may be. Well, anyway, I'm going to start out with the sun sign, and according to lipstickalley.com and statisticbrain.com, Aquarius was the least common sun sign in the U.S., ranked 12th at 6.3% of the population apparently having the sun in Aquarius, which equates to approximately 1 in 16 people in the United States having the Aquarius sun. However, I actually searched extensively to find the stat on the least common sun sign for the whole world, and I searched extensively and to no avail. I did not find it. But anyway, let me get to the moon sign now. Now I see the moon sign is about an even probability for all 12 signs. Now the sun sign could be relative to the conception or wherever that beginning of pregnancy is. Now it is exceptionally random as far as the moon sign goes. Let's say if the average, I'm throwing this out arbitrarily, but let's say, for example, on average, if the pregnancy is 9 months and let's say the beginning of the pregnancy begins on February 8th, the baby will likely be born around or on November 8th. Keep in mind, you may have a 2-week deviation or variance from this time, meaning the baby may be born 2 weeks earlier or up to 2 weeks later. So that gives a 28-day radius. And what that means is that in this example, the baby would likely very close, it may not be quite 100%, very close to that of being a sun in Scorpio in this example. Now, in short, you may be able to plan for a certain sun sign, but the moon sign you can't. Now, the thing is, you're not going to have, I don't know the stats on this, but I think it'd be safe to say that you're not going to have one moon sign strongly outnumber another one as far as population goes, as far as amount of people having, I should say, amount of people having one moon sign over the other. I would imagine it would be fairly evenly divided among all 12 zodiac signs. And keep in mind that the moon goes through the 12 signs in about 28 days. So knowing that, that's what makes it a point where you can't really plan for that baby to have a certain moon sign, because you might have that 28-day roughly, that variance, that deviation from that 9-month period, where that 9-month time where the baby may be born, and the moon runs the full cycle through the 12 signs in 28 days. So you could have it where it could be any of those zodiac signs. Now here's something a little bit more complex, and we're going to go to the rising signs now. As far as rising signs go, Pisces and Aries have the shortest ascension in the northern hemisphere. The northern hemisphere inhabits approximately 90% of the world population. According to Wikipedia.org, Pisces and Aries rise for about 44 minutes at the latitude of Paris, France, meaning you have about 3% of people that are born at that latitude. Only about 3% would have Pisces rising, and only about 3% would have Aries rising. Now let's try, another latitude was used on Wikipedia.org. Let's say at the latitude of St. Petersburg, Russia, Pisces and Aries both rise for 30 minutes, it's stated. So you have about approximately 2% of people born at that latitude would have Pisces rising. Only about 2% of that latitude, born at that latitude, would have Aries rising. So you might, because you have a little bit of this variance and fluctuation in the ascending times at various locations, you might have between 2 to 5% roughly of people that are born in the northern hemisphere have Pisces rising. 2 to 5% in the northern hemisphere would have Aries rising. So it's a very minuscule amount. And also, I did this on my own. I had looked up for New York, of course, I had to look that one up. For Pisces and Aries, both ascended for about 70 minutes. Both ascend or rise for approximately 70 minutes in New York. So that's around 5% of people. What I'm saying is people that are born at the latitude of New York, only about 5% of them will have Pisces rising. Only about 5% of them will have Aries rising. So what this means is, as far as, and you have to remember that, okay, you do have 10% of the world population that do reside in the southern hemisphere, and Pisces and Aries are signs of long ascension in the southern hemisphere. However, even factoring that into the equation, Pisces and Aries overall do rise. I should say, there's Pisces and Aries are the least common rising signs in the world, because you have 90% of the world population is in the northern hemisphere. You have 10% in the southern, and even though in the southern hemisphere Pisces and Aries are signs of long ascension, it's just a simple fact that most of the people are born, 90% are born in the northern hemisphere, and Pisces and Aries are the two signs of shortest ascension in the northern hemisphere. 90% of them there. It's still, even when you factor in that 10% in the even if you factor in those people that have Aries and Pisces rising in the southern hemisphere, you're going to have fewer people overall that have Pisces and Aries rising. Well, anyway, now this is another interesting thing. So I'm looking at Aquarius, as far as the sun sign in the United States being the fewest people born with that particular sun sign. Now, as far as the ascendant sign, it seems that Pisces and Aries are actually, I don't think it appears, it is fact that there's fewer people with Pisces and Aries rising in the world than any other rising sign. So that being said, well, there's one other thing I wanted to look at. Okay, I'm trying to see, okay, well, Aquarius is in the United States, apparently there's fewer people born under that sun sign than any other sun sign. Well, let me see where Aquarius falls in terms of rising signs. Now, apparently Aquarius and Taurus in the northern hemisphere are the signs of second shortest ascension after Pisces and Aries. Now, according to Wikipedia.org, at the latitude of St. Petersburg, Russia, Aquarius rises for 45 minutes. Only about 3% of the population born in that city and on that latitude, therefore, would have Aquarius rising. Now, the times of ascension for Aquarius would be different in a location in northern hemisphere. Now, in New York, Aquarius, this calculation I did on my own. I researched as far as this was not from Wikipedia.org, but this was something that I just calculated on my own. Aquarius in New York rises for approximately 85 minutes. So that would mean approximately 6% of the population that was born in New York, or at that latitude, would have Aquarius rising. So you could be looking at between 3 to 6% of people that are born in the northern hemisphere would have Aquarius rising. So that appears, along with Taurus, to be the two signs of shortest ascension following Pisces and Aries as far as the northern hemisphere goes. Now, of course, in the southern hemisphere, Aquarius is a sign of long ascension. However, as I stated before, the northern hemisphere inhabits approximately 90% of the population, where you only have 10% in the southern hemisphere. Therefore, even though you have Aquarius as a sign of long ascension in the southern hemisphere, even factoring in all the people that are born in the southern hemisphere that have Aquarius rising at a higher percent rate as opposed to the northern hemisphere, the fact that you have 9 times the amount of people in the northern hemisphere means that Aquarius is still going to be at least tied with Taurus as far as the second to least common zodiac sign. Well, and overall, what this tells me is that Aquarius could be the sign overall that might be the least common if you average in the sun and ascendant, but the problem is this is something we're not going to know irrefutably or irrebuttably, because, as I stated earlier, that I researched extensively, Googled this big time, and I couldn't find any stats for anything other than the United States, which of course has Aquarius listed according to lipstickalley.com and statisticbrain.com. It was ranked 12th at 6.3% of the US population having the sun in Aquarius. And really, now if that were true for the other countries, if Aquarius on average was the lowest if Aquarius on average, if we knew for a fact, had the lowest population as far as the sun sign goes, and Aquarius being one of the shorter ascending signs overall, or one of the least common ascendants or least common rising signs overall, and with the moon sign everything being pretty much the same, Aquarius could make an argument for being the least common zodiac sign overall. However, there's really not enough to say that it is, although the problem is there's only one country I was able to evaluate, as I stated before, as far as the numbers for the sun sign. And the thing is, I think the two things we could say really unequivocally is that the moon sign is pretty much evenly divided among all 12 signs, and that the ascendant signs, the signs that have the fewest, the least common rising signs are going to be Pisces and Aries, and then after that are going to be Taurus and Aquarius. So Pisces and Aries can take the nod as far as the least common ascendant or rising signs, and then the moon signs everything's equal, and then for the sun sign, Aquarius takes the cake in the United States, and Aquarius comes in a tie, should come in a tie for second as far as the least common rising sign. Second, as I stated before, in a tie with Taurus, with Pisces and Aries taking the title for the most, for the least common ascendant or rising sign in the world. Well, that pretty much concludes this YouTube astrological segment for the least common zodiac sign. And stay tuned next time, where I will be continuing my transits in the houses series. Two things I want to get with you on before I head out. Firstly, the stars may impel but do not compel. And secondly, never isolate any single astrological element, aspect, planetary placement, position, configuration, influence, or what have you, and make an analysis of a person, astrologically speaking, based on this alone. Because astrologically speaking, the person is the sum of all their components in their natal chart and not just one. Until next time, people, stay well.